New York City's Airbnb market used to be absolutely lucrative. Everyone did it, and there were almost 10,000 Airbnbs in this tiny little city across 5 boroughs. But now you probably see one thing on Airbnb, which is almost 80% of the listings in New York City are completely delisted. They're gone, and the only units that are left are like itty bitty tiny units. And the only way for a host to do Airbnb in New York City is the host has to live in it, or there's a long term tenant, and the amount of guests can't exceed more than 2 people. Like, what in the world are those rules? So obviously, 80% of Airbnbs are gone. They no longer exist. And compared to places like Chicago, for example, you could actually see like fat penthouses, really unique stays, modern homes and mansions. These are all very unique homes. But if you go to New York City, Airbnb, it is just completely bland. There's nothing interesting. All the units basically are just little cubicles because those big penthouses, those really cool stays, they no longer exist essentially. So New York City's crackdown on Airbnb goes into effect. This is causing a lot of these units to become long-term rentals, and New York City is already getting a lot of apartments. Now, there's one example that you need to know, which is cities where there isn't any population increase, but way too many houses and apartments causes a massive decrease in rent drops. Oakland is a fantastic example. I love using Oakland because it's so close to like San Francisco. So obviously you have a lot of office workers and tech workers in this area. They build so many apartments, right? To the point that the rents drop almost 10% in just a matter of a few months. That's an insane drop, and that's not normal. Same thing with Austin, Texas. Like rents in a single month dropped 3% because they built so many suburban homes. And Oakland is no different. They just build so many apartment complexes, rents are falling faster than any other city in the US. And we could be seeing the same thing for New York City, and New York's real estate market is already under a lot of stress because you have so many people building condos, a lot of people are investing. People in New York City's rental markets and housing markets are extremely over leveraged. So even a small decrease in price will have a huge increase in the amount of foreclosures. And I guess that's really good for buyers, and especially you if you're in New York City or if you want to buy a property in New York City. Obviously, a massive decrease in price is fantastic for you. But for the current landlords, they're taking a massive beating. And look at this. Airbnb experienced a massive blow in New York, and there's now a black market Airbnb. It's not called Airbnb, it's just everyday landlords. They're just trying to get their short-term rentals out. And they're essentially using other apps besides Airbnb and Vrbo, because if you use Airbnb and Vrbo, you're practically just snitching on yourself. So what a lot of people are doing is like WhatsApp, Signal, and Facebook groups. There's Craigslist and even subreddits that are fully dedicated towards short-term rentals in New York City. Because despite a massive ban on Airbnbs, a lot of people that are coming to New York City, they actually like short-term rentals, right? A lot of people don't really want to go to New York City and then just stay in like a bland hotel. They much rather stay at like a really cool place, a very unique stay. Some want to stay in like a brownstone. Some want to stay in like a modern condo. Like, you kind of get the idea. And people still like these short-term rentals. Tourists, they still like it. There's still a massive demand for it. So now people are turning towards other areas. Like, you even have whole entire groups on Facebook and even X just simply dedicated to short-term rentals and Airbnb. So it's now fully unregulated, and we don't even know what's going to happen since everything is so unregulated. But just remember that the foreclosures are already getting up. Airbnb hosts on brink of foreclosure following city clampdown report. We got a lot of big stuff going on. We have this law going into effect, and property owners are now furious. They are going towards the foreclosure route. And if you guys don't know New York City, right now, the resale market isn't really that hot. So a lot of these guys who initially bought like a $2 million condo, which they used to do short-term rentals with, are now trying to list that $2 million condo on Zillow, but nobody's buying it. And they have to do insane price cuts, and they're losing out on a lot of money. There's also, like a third of the group's 500 members that are specifically towards the short-term rental market is saying that a lot of them are retired, unemployed, or self-employed and cannot afford their expenses without rental income, especially short-term rental income. Because a lot of these homes were bought at very high prices, and HOA and property tax are all extremely pricey in New York City. They're still going up. So guess what? A lot of these buildings, like these townhouses, can no longer exist. Look at this. Brooklyn homeowner has been renting out the ground floor of her 2-family home in Bedford-Stuy for between $150 to $400 per night. Fears that she would not be able to make ends meet but after December 1st, when Airbnb's grace period ends for reservations. That's a big deal because these short-term rentals do pay a lot for like the expenses for a lot of these New York City apartments and townhouses. If you own one of these townhouses, okay, you may think that the job is done, the day is over, but you gotta pay property tax. Property tax in New York City is no joke. Like these brown zones are probably paying like tens of thousands every year, even just for like a single floor. And there's also like fees. There's also trash, sewer, water, internet, different utilities. There's just so much stuff in New York City that you gotta pay. And that's just like one of the side effects of owning a AAA city type of real estate. So you have a lot of these Airbnb units just taking massive beatings at this point. And a lot of these Airbnb units just simply cannot survive. And look at this. New York City listing crackdown plunges 77% after massive decreases in the Airbnb industry. And not to mention, a lot of these guys who are trying to transition from short-term rentals in the Airbnb sector to long-term rentals now have to go against big corporations who are already getting the backing of the city to do massive office to residential conversions. Remember what I said about Oakland when there's so many apartments being built and converted and the population doesn't increase? Well, New York is about to pull that. So get ready for a massive Airbnb foreclosure. We already are seeing properties on the Airbnb app. They suddenly got listed for sale on Zillow. They're on Zillow for a couple weeks now. They can't pay a lot of their payments. And many of these units are now heading towards the foreclosure section. And it's very hard to make the same amount as short-term rentals with long-term rentals. Not to mention, like I said, huge offices are being converted, like 25 Water, right? They're making thousands of apartments. One Wall Street made like hundreds of apartments and condos for sale. Same exact thing. And we're seeing a lot of Airbnb crackdowns from Europe to the US to even Asia. We're seeing a lot of cities and countries cracking down on Airbnb style rentals. Even places like Victoria in British Columbia, Canada, they are actually cracking down on it too. They straight up banned it. And you have places like Seattle and San Francisco, Los Angeles. They have huge and very strict terms on Airbnbs, and those things are only getting more and more strict by the day. And Airbnbs in general aren't even that profitable anymore, even in cities where they allow Airbnb, like Miami, for example, Dallas, Austin. It's just not as profitable as before. And just look at Airbnb here, right? This is just very, very sad on the app. These are all very, very tiny units. They're not big at all. And it's going to be very difficult for the host to make money. And initially, people own 2 to 3 Airbnbs, making 6-figure incomes, are now holding just properties that they can't rent out short term. And they have to turn towards the long-term market, which they're finding themselves in steep competition in that area. So thanks for watching, guys. Comment below, how do you feel about the New York City's crackdown on Airbnb? Obviously, it's going to be pretty good for renters and also buyers. But of course, the original landlords, they're taking a huge loss. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe for more.